Hey, what's up, Black Pro Gen? It is your girl Nika here. Just got off the plane, so I'm looking a hot mess. But regardless, I was talking to True and I was talking to Angela and a few other folks about Heredis, and I figured I'd take some time this morning just to do a quick video to kind of show you guys what is possible. When it comes to Heredis and the fact that I think it's a really good asset. And I feel like there are a few of you guys who are playing around with this. We can definitely, or I can definitely re-record this. So if we want to use it or sort of endorse it, I can re-record this so we can sort of show the public what you can do with this. But anywho, if you haven't downloaded it, I'm going to take you to the site. This is a little card that they gave us at Roots Tech with the code and stuff on there. You can use the code until March 31st. So if you have not downloaded it yet, I would suggest that you do so. Because yeah, you can only use it for another 30 days. And so I'm going to take everybody through the process of how to do that. So let me go and I put my screen on geriatric so you guys can see this. So the issue that folks were encountering at Roots Tech was that they weren't entering in HTTPS, and then the code for Heredis. And you see I already have the link here. It's right here on this second one. And I'll put that, of course, in the area where you can see. And so what it'll do is it will, because this was not working before, it was taking you to a page where folks were having issues, and it was because they weren't using a secure connection. They forgot to put the HTTPS on there. So here's a link. It's specifically for Roots Tech. And it's all branded for that as well. You don't even have to switch the language anymore. And they have some, basic information about the software. Here's a little card that I just showed you. And it's good for Windows and for Mac. So, this is a software that works for both. And it gives you the capability to do a lot of different things. So you're just going to go to download your free software. It'll take you back down to this little area that I was just in. You select, in this case, I'm using a Mac. So you would come over here. You see it's already marked down to $24.99. But with the code, which is 2018 free, once you add it to your cart, so you go to add it to your cart, you proceed to your checkout. And when you get to this screen, you're going to enter in the coupon code 2018 free, which of course I've already entered this in. Whoops, need to do that again. And then it will clear your cart. This is much easier than the step that we had earlier. And as I mentioned before, the reason why it wasn't working before was because people weren't entering in the HTTPS on the actual that was on the actual card. They were skipping that step. So you proceed to go through, register. They'll send you a link to download, including your software key, and then you're all good. So this is the new way to do this. It's much easier. It's much quicker. I just kind of discovered this little flaw earlier. So from this point, once you actually install the software, I'm going to take you through an example. Like I said, I'll probably re-record this for if and when we decide that we want to publicize or behind this project or product. Because I'm going to tell you right now, once you see what I've done with it, you all are probably going to be sold on this. I think the biggest hurdle for us is the fact that the user interface is not what we're used to. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. So your entire screen. Oh, whoops. Let me go back. Keep touching the wrong window. My bad. Okay, here we go. Entire screen. Okay. Present to everyone. All right. So at this point, you're going to open up the app or the program once you you download it and install it. My desktop looks crazy. Normally, my screen size is way more space in it, but because I know we have folks that are visually challenged, I wanted to make sure that you guys could see. So here's my doc, because I'm a Mac user, and I've got my family tree maker. I've got Heredis right here. This is how it shows up on a Mac. So you go ahead and click it to open it. Um, and here's what the main screen looks like. And you can start a new family tree. You can open a family tree, a recent one. So it's got a list, and here are the list of stuff that I have. So I may open up the test one just so you guys can see what I did. And then there's a way just to open up another Heredis file, maybe is not the most recent one that you open. There's a chart file that you can open, and then here's a way to open GEDCOMs as well. There's also options to import. So you can import these things or export. And then there's a Heredis online account that you can use. I have not utilized that because I don't plan to use this software for anything other than, deep research projects that I'm working on, and you'll see why. And so you have the options to reveal your files in the Finder, or the screens are going to basically look the same. You also got the Help and Learning Center here. I usually keep that open just because I'm not super familiar with using this software yet. So there may be some things I'm like, oh, well, where's this at in this particular program? So if you go across the top, you've got your usual stuff like the file, edit options. They've got person, additions of father, mother, spouse, child, or another link, deleting primary people, father link, mother link, all those things. And this stuff will actually be, available to you once you, open up a file. So let me go ahead and open up my test so you guys can see this is the one that I created just to play around to see what this system did before I actually really got sold on it. So let me jump back. This is what the interface looks like. You've got some stuff here at the top. These are new features, options, your Heredis online account, which if you enable that, it will sync your tree that's on your local computer to the internet. And then if you access your account again on a mobile device, that information will be there as well. It doesn't require the clicking of a syncing button like some of the other programs that we have that are out there now. So back and a forward option, the root person is, your home person. You can go back to the Heredis homepage, which is where we just were. Here's an option to save the file. This is something that I think that is maybe one of the least desirable things that I found about the software so far, is that you have to save. You have to make sure you save. A lot of the other genealogy database systems don't require you to save. You make one change and then you're done. But this one, I'm constantly saving just because I don't know when it does. Now, I guess that would be a great piece of feedback that we could give the developers. It's a big, disadvantage from what we've been using. Then here's the add or link person, delete option. Consistency, so it'll check your file for consistency. You've got find, which is pretty awesome. You can search by name, number, smart search, find and replace, web search, find duplicates, relationships, online archives, which is good search. The online archives, it gives you the ability to search ancestry, family search, those sites. Indexes, where you can open up an index based on surnames, given names, occupations, places, sources, repositories, media. And you've got this whole set of stuff here for charts, meaning, family trees, sheets. That's the terminology that they use for reports, and the ability to create a book, which I know Angela is excited about this. So when I came into this system, I literally just entered in James Lawrence Trask, who's a slaveholder of the Trask 250 that I've been telling you guys about ad nauseum. And if I had information, I know his parents' information, but as I mentioned, this particular database is a test, just because I wanted to see if the software could handle what the needs were that they said that they could. So I just put him in here quickly. And, I would have his parents' information here, and you get 3 generations worth of information on this one screen. It actually could be more if I had a spouse and children for him, they would show up down here. So this is the immediate family screen. And then you've got this extra large family screen that would, basically show the vertical pedigree chart for him if more folks were in there. Then you've got, the horizontal pedigree chart that would be here. This is another view under the family screen or tab. And then you've got descendants, and this would show, basically an Onentafel report. So if we go back to data, and this is all under one person, you've got family group data, right? You've got personal data. So the first area is personal data. And this is where you can enter in information. You got the surname, given names, occupation. I put slaveholder in here. There's this legitimate status or child status of, you can set a status of legitimate, natural, legally recognized, legitimated, foundling, adopted, illegitimate, stillborn, or unknown. You can assign all those statuses to a child. Signature means that the person was literate. They could read or write. You can note them as being childless, and in this case, he was. So they have a little pair of scissors. It's almost like the person was doing the big snip. You can also check unmarried, so your file would know that, right? You can choose to exclude this person from the export of genealogy files and print or not print this chart on any part. Or file, print or not print in any chart or file. So this privatizes. In Family's Tree Maker, this is what privatizing is. You can mark the person, which you can exclude them from your file. And so it's a couple of different options for this, and this makes the person confidential. That's actually likened to private on Family Tree Maker. And then naturally, when you come in here, it'll list the spouses, the year that they got married, the status of their relationship, any events, meaning birth, death, all that stuff shows up here. If I had an image of him, I could upload it here, and that would display here. If I had information about any of his spouses, marriage licenses, all that kind of stuff, that would show up here if I wanted it to. Any events. And then you've got this whole other area over here for details, meaning if there were events here, they would, the date and the place would be here. Any notes that I entered, you could set that up there. Sources that are attached to each event, once you select those. Witnesses for each event. That's huge, because a lot of genealogy softwares do not give you the ability to document a role for a person. I know that Roots Magic does this, but it's probably one of the only other softwares that I've seen that, based on an event, let's say a birth, a marriage, a deed, any of those things, it's just straightforward. It's just a fact that it's not attached to other people. And then you've got your media that would show up here, and then there's also the ability to have a map there as well. And then this is all from one person's screen. These are all the options that you have. Then you've got facts. So they've got separate facts from events. And most genealogy softwares, and I'll open up Family Tree Maker just so you guys can kind of see the difference in how this stuff looks. So this is my TRAS 250. This is just for the slaves, right? So I'll open up Randall Tolliver, just so you guys can see. So in Family Tree Maker, you really have only got this, for the most part. This is like your main screen right here, which is the person screen. And so you've got, a little bit of a pedigree up here, and then you've got just facts. You've got individual facts, and you've got shared facts. Really, the only shared facts you can have with someone are like a marriage and a divorce. And then you've got your sources over here for the particular person, any media that you have attached, and any notes based on the facts. So this would be the name facts, the sex fact, and then if you had any notes for that, if you had anything else like indenture. So instead of me, for this particular indenture, I've got a source, and I've got all the details for the citation that I have that are listed here in the citation detail. I can have them here, and I can also put them in the notes area. But this is all based off of just a fact, right? This is very, very sort of like one-dimensional. And here's where Heredis differs in this. You've got your events. Here's events. Facts are here. So they're separate. These are two separate screens. So that's a huge sort of upgrade for us, having more dimensionality with this stuff. Then they've got the sources for the person. So every source you have that's been used for an event or a fact will show up here, and the comments will be here. And here is where the good stuff is for us. You're probably sitting here like, I've been sitting here for 5 or 6 minutes watching this. What is this benefit to me? Here's where the benefit is to us. So they've got this area called sundry links, and I mentioned this in the thread, original thread that I had on Heredis. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to attach people who are not related, right? Or maybe you know they're related, but you're not sure how. When you're in a normal genealogy database, such as Family Tree Maker, I mean, they pretty much all look the same, but there's no way to connect unrelated people, right? So if we come over here to this database that I have in Family Tree Maker, right, with these slaves, the only way that I can tell that these folks are even in the same database is if I come to the publish screen and I go to an extended family chart and I create the chart. And if you look at this, it's like 100 and, I don't know how many pages, but it's look at how many people are in this, right? It's a ton of people. And these are all separate families that existed within this enslaved community. And you see some of them are down here because I haven't figured out if they're connected to these folks up here at all. This is the only way that I would know that these folks were enslaved on the same plantation. If I do a one-to-one view where you guys can see, right, these are actual family structures. Here's Mater Palmer, Jim Haynes, their children, and then it goes down into their children and their descendants that go down into DNA matches that match me and are part of the TRAS 250 and part of the TRAS 250. There's no other way for me to say that these folks are connected at all, right? Unless I verify that they're actually family members. So you've got Musa Dunbar, Katie Musa over here. These folks are separate. They have their own separate tree. Some of these folks have intermarried, but for the most part, these folks are separate. Here's where Heredis differs in this. So I just talked about Sago, and I just talked about Mater, and I just talked about Jim Haynes. Coming over here to Heredis, I can create a new fact, right? So let me remove one of these so I can show you how to do it. So let's say James Lawrence Trask is a slaveholder. I want to connect him to Mater, right? Because I know that that's a slaveholder. If I'm over here in Family Tree Maker and I come back to Mater's page, I've got her information, with her husband, Jim Haynes, and I've got the information connected to her parents. But the only way that someone would know that she was enslaved by James Trask and other people is if they went through each one of these facts, each one of these indentures, and looked at who the transactions were between, or looked at my citations. There's no other way to know that. With Heredis, though, here's what you can do. And let me switch her name because I have her surname in here all different. That's probably why I couldn't find her earlier. Okay. So if I go back to James Trask, click under sundry links. So that's where I'm at, sundry links, right? This is under personal data. And you come down to the middle where sundry links is. I can click that and select people who are already in the database. These are people who are already entered, and choose. And then it gives me a type of link down here. And it says Mater is the ancestor of James Lawrence Trask. No, she's not. I've already created a new type, right? You can do that by creating it's called other type of link. If you click that, it gives you the option to type in whatever type of link you want to. And you notice that the language here has changed. It did say Mater is the descendant or the ancestor to James Lawrence Trask. The minute I put other type of link, it switched the language. In this case, I've already created, so I've already done this part. I've gone in here and I've typed in enslavement as my other type of link. You can name it whatever you want to. I chose to call my link enslavement. So since I already have that down here, you see it automatically defaults to, ancestor descendant, sibling link, brother, sister-in-law. So that would give you the ability to denote, when somebody is married into the family versus when there's a blood relation, twins, right? What I've been doing in my Atlas database is I created a whole separate custom fact that says identical twins or twins. And I put in the description area, fraternal or identical, uncle, nephew, father, son-in-law, relative, cousin, blood relation. They've got biological child, parent, adoptive parent child, legally recognized heir testator, which is great for somebody who, you're tracking descendancy with enslavement, guardian, or in the care of the guardian, friend, duplicate, other type of link. In this case, anytime you put in a custom other type of link, it's going to show in at the bottom, and this is enslavement, right? And so now I can type in whatever I want in terms of comments. You click that and look at this. I've already entered in 2 other people. I've entered in James Haynes, who is the husband of Mater Palmer, and Sago Haynes, who is the child of both James Haynes and Mater Palmer. And they are listed in an enslavement role connected with them and James Trask. So if I go to Sago's profile, you will also see that James Lawrence Trask is listed in a role of enslavement between him and Sago Haynes. Isn't this really cool? Right? If you have alternate names, you can list those in this other screen. But this is just, really just going over, you all, just really briefly how we would use this. There's a lot of power to harness here. So let's go back home, and I want to actually show you guys what I started doing with this larger project. So as I mentioned before, I've been keeping this information on the Trask 50. These are 250 slaves that I've traced, as you can see in this screen, from Family Tree Maker with Mater Palmer and James Haynes. I've got 7 different sources of information. Mater never lived to see freedom. She was enslaved her entire life, but I've got 7 sources of information for her, and including a birth date, several indentures, mortgages that took place between her slaveholder and other folks that were financing his plantation operations. I've got a slave list, but most of the stuff I have is indentures for her. The only way, as I mentioned, that I would be able to connect her to James Trask is through I'd have to list him as a father in the database, which is not factually correct. There's no way for them to share facts, because shared facts are really only divorces and marriages. There's not a lot of shared facts that you can do. So the only thing I'd have available to me is to do, a parent-child relationship, but that's not what we want in this instance. In some instances, that's true, but this is not in this case. So if I come over in this iteration of this database, this is an import that I did. I went to File and Import, and I imported a GEDCOM file. And GEDCOM file that I generated was from that Family Tree Maker screen that I just had up. This screen. This is an export from Family Tree Maker. You head up here to export. It's like, yes, you can passport protect your files. I understand that. You can do your entire file. You come up here, go to GEDCOM. You can choose either one of these options. So I exported these folks. This is a tree that I started in Family Tree Maker, and that I exported as a GEDCOM. And then I also have another tree that I created that is on Ancestry, that is for the slaveholders. And I went into the settings, and this particular tree for the slaveholders was created on Ancestry. The tree with the slaves that I had was created in Family Tree Maker. And I keep going to the wrong area. Okay, so when you go to your tree settings, if you created a tree on Ancestry, you can come down here to manage your tree and download your GEDCOM file. And so I did this for this tree for the slaveholders that was created on Ancestry. And as I mentioned before, I did a export from Family Tree Maker to a GEDCOM file here. I have these 2 separate files. In Heredis, I came and I imported both of them into one file. I did not have a single issue with transferring the data over at all. Now, I can't vouch for whether or not this will work if you have a large file, or something you've been maintaining for a number of years. I don't know how you all are if you're still working off the same file. For me, I don't work off the same file. I actually create a new genealogy file in my, in Family Tree Maker for my Atlas family. I do that every 6 months because I don't want there to be errors, whatever. I just want to keep it as current as possible. So I break it up from January to June, and then from July to December, just to make sure that my stuff stays in working order. And so in this instance, these are the 2 files: the GEDCOM from Family Tree Maker of the slaves, and the GEDCOM from Ancestry.com. This is what the entire database is. It's 315 people. that are in here. And if we go back to Mater, who I was just telling you about, or Meta Palmer, and click her profile, this is what her profile looks like. Her personal data, this is what I have that's already in Family Tree Maker, right? So let me do a comparison screen. So this is what it looks like in Family Tree Maker, you know, with the same exact details. This is exact same file, right? It's exactly what I exported. Remember, we've got a source, right? Several sources for her name, and then one source for her birth, and then all these indentures have one source ranging from the indentures range from 1818 to 1855. There's one thing that's in here that's a slave list. That's one thing that's different. As you can see, Heredis imported all these things, even gives you an age that she was when they took place. Notice the dates here are changing. They're exact same dates that I have. It imported the locations. It imported the description. Gives me, like I said, it gives me an age, all that. And then each fact I come on, you see I've got my sources, and it came in directly from Family Tree Maker. And I can decide what the evidence is. Right? Is it direct, indirect, negative, or is it a question mark? I don't even think I have that as an option on Family Tree Maker. If I click my sources, I've got reference notes, right? Which that's my note, right? Which is here, right? That's my citation detail. This is my reference note, okay? And this is what it would show up as sourced. That's how it would show up sourced. Any media, and then any other notes that's tied to this. That's all I have. I don't have the ability to evaluate my source on a case-by-case basis. So that's something that is different in Heredis, right? You can go by each thing and determine the evidence, right? If I had witnesses for these things, which I do, I would need to come in here and add those roles. And in this instance, whoops, let me go back. Let me hide this little thing because it was getting in the way. Oops, I don't want to open you. Okay. So if we go back here, I can click a link, and just like how I was doing with sundry links for enslavement, I can also add in a link to another person as a witness in this file. And in this instance, I'm looking for potentially other Trasks, right, who are family members of Welch. I can choose Israel Elliott Trask, who was James Trask's brother. I mean, you know, a number of different things, and it would provide a link, right? So if I came and I added Israel as a witness, right? It could be registry officer, look at this, declarant, present, mentioned, twin, and then other roles, right? Same stuff that you sort of saw in sundry links. You can do that as well for witnesses in here. So that's a really great functionality. But here and again, this is where we're going to go back, right? So for family, you've got spouses. You can select the status: married, engaged, separated, divorced, other marital link, cohabitee, unknown status. That's there. If you come to Family Tree Maker and you go into the relationships area, you've got the ability to go to spouse and select different roles, but they've only got partner, friend, single, other, private, unknown, right? They don't have engaged. They don't have any of that other stuff there. So that's a difference. The status of the relationship: annulled, deceased, divorced, ongoing, none, other, private, separated, unknown. You've got those as options, right? So that's a difference. So you've got, you know, pretty much the same options. You've got your facts. I don't have any facts in here. I just have events. You've got all of the sources, as I mentioned, they're in one area, right? Everything that I have as a source for her is all listed here in one space. In Family Tree Maker, I don't have that unless I pile up all the sources on a name, because that's how I would identify that it was her, because her name was mentioned. So I've got all these facts: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 facts, right? 8 of them are subjective to, you know, or have to have her name mentioned. You know, one of them could have a name and an age mentioned, right? But I have to pile them all up on her name in order for you to see them all at a glance. In Heredis, you can get them all at a glance. Here's where the best part is for us. So right now, I don't have James Lawrence Trask listed as her slaveholder, but I do know that he was her slaveholder, right? And I've got an indenture here from Israel Trask to Winthrop Sargent. This is when he mortgaged her at 2 months old. I've got a sale, an interest sale from Israel Trask to James Trask in 1822. And then I've got a separate mortgage. I know that's a mortgage. Then I've got another mortgage from James, that a care of Israel, 1831. Same thing, 1839 from James to Eliza Trask. Another one at 1848. I've got a slave list in 1852, and then I've got an 1855 indenture. So at this point, I know that there's at least 3 slaveholders involved in this. So I'm going to go and add a sundry link, and I'm going to put in Trask, and it's going to be Israel Elliott Trask, because he was the first owner. He mortgaged Mater as a 2-month-old child. So I'm going to choose him, and I'm going to come down. Remember, I've already designated that enslavement is a sundry link or a type of link. And I'm going to click that. And in the comments area, I'm going to put question mark to 1822, because I know that's when Israel sold Mater to his brother James. So I'm going to click OK. And now Israel is attached to Mater. The next person I'm going to go into, right, because we've got, this indenture, then we've got the actual sale from Israel to James. So I'm going to put in a new sundry link, this time to the second slave owner that I've traced to, which is James Lawrence Trask. I'm selecting him from the list. I'm clicking choose. I'm scrolling down to enslavement, and I'm going to put year 1822 to 1855, which is when James Lawrence Trask died. So that's in there as well. Now I know that in 1855, James then bequeathed Mater and her family to his niece, Charlotte Pynchon Ventress, and that she was the owner until slavery ended. So now I'm going to put in Charlotte Davis Pynchon Ventress. She's going to be the next owner. And I'm going to put in enslavement. And I'm going to type 1855 to 1865, because that's when she owned her. And there you have it. So now you have the 3 owners who are attached to Mater, right? And if I go to Israel Trask, his profile in Heredis, you'll see I already have other people attached with enslavement. And some of them were earlier than Mater, right? Because at this point, it looked like Israel owned her from her birth, and I would imagine that was the case. So I could technically go in and edit this and say, okay, it's from, I believe her birth was when 1817. So I can say, all right, from 1817 to 1822 is when he owned her. And this link updates if I'm on his profile as a slaveholder or if I'm on hers. And if I want to have my data be succinct and the data entry be correct, I'll follow what's already here. As you can see, I took spaces out between the dash. And so I have these slaves already attached to Israel Elliott Trask, beginning 1817 for some, 1818 for others. And this is really cool. So here's another thing that you can do with this. So what I've done is I have DNA matches that I've made their last name DNA. And these are people who are attached to these Trask slaves that I know that I've traced their lineage back to these Trask slaves. So if we use me as an example, right? Something that I've done, because I'm researching in a community, I've gone in and I've added a sundry role type or type of link, DNA. And for all of my DNA matches that are attached to this particular community, I've gone in and I've put the number of centimorgans that we share and the relationship if it is known. And these are all folks who have DNA that are attached to this particular group of slaves. So if we look at my cousin CJ, if I pull him up so you guys can see him, he's got relationships that I've figured out or that I know because I talked to him about it. And I've put in their type of relationship: father, son, third cousin, second cousin, all this kind of stuff. And these are all folks who were tied to Trask slaves. If you go over to family, you can see, if you keep going up for him, right? Here is Mater and James. Those are his slaveholders. And then you see down here, this, we looked at James Trask's screen before, and you didn't see any of these peoples because I didn't have folks loaded. I was kind of playing around, seeing what they were doing. You got James and Mater, to Sago Haynes, to Marie Frances Haynes, to Ella Z. Cador, and Sago Cador, her children. And we've got links going all the way down. So here's a DNA person who is a descendant of Sago Cador, one of his children. And then we've got folks who come from his daughter, Vivian, and you keep going down. So there's a way, that's the way that I've been able to also use DNA in this. So you go to extra large family, you can actually see it more at a glance here. And you can determine how many generations you want to see, or if you want to see children, all that sort of thing. So if we choose his uncle instead, look at this. This is the at a glance, right? For CJ's uncle. And these are all folks who were tied to these Trask slaves. So here's his box, and then it goes up to his parents, and then to his ancestors. So, I mean, literally, this is pretty stinking awesome, right? Especially if you have the DNA harnessed in here as well. So if I go to James and Mater, right? Whoops, I got to click here. I would have to add James as a source. And I'd have to add in every single indenture that I just put in for his wife, because he was there as well as a 3-year-old child instead. So I'll take you through that process again, just so you guys can see, because I know some of you are probably like, you went really quickly, I didn't get to see it all, but that's okay. So I know Israel Elliott Trask was a slaveholder from at least 18, I think it was 18, yeah, it was 1817 to 1822. Or wait, no, it was 1818. It was 1818. So let me go back and change that. And then I know that Israel's brother James was the slaveholder from 1822, 1855. So that's there. And then I know from 1855 to 1865, Charlotte Pynchon Ventress was the owner. So we'll put in 1855 to 1865. And that's there. So you would go through, and as I mentioned before, right? Every time I'm adding additional sundry links to these folks, be it Israel Trask, his brother James, the niece, those links are being added to their screens as well. So there was another person that I did this for. I think it was Randall, my ancestor, Randall Oliver, because he had a different set of owners. Same people, eventually got to the same people, but different owners. So this is where 5 owners are, actually it's more than that, it's 6 are involved. You've got Isaac Robinette from question mark to 1809, Hatton Middleton and his brother William Middleton. They were both co-owners from 1809 to 1811. Augustus Trask from 1811 to 1812. James Lawrence Trask from should be 1812 to, actually, yeah, I put 1831 because I didn't have a transaction mentioning Randall's name after 1831. And I also know that Israel was part owner from 1817 to 1822, because there were several instances where it was 50% ownership. So that's where you can see that for Randall, where you have literally, you can just look at the years and see who the slaveholder was. There's no option for this in Family Tree Maker. None, unless I go in and add folks in as a parent. If I bring Randall in over here, this is as flat as it's going to look. You're not really going to know that there's any connection. But with Heredis, you do see it. Now let me go over to the sheets area, because this is something that's actually really cool. So this is where you print out reports. And you can select, they've got a number of different layouts, classical layout, elegant. I mean, you just decide what you want. I feel like this is another area potentially that, they maybe need to potentially take some of our feedback. I haven't found where you can create a custom report like you can in Family Tree Maker. If you go over, and let me cancel this and Heredis so you guys can see. If you go over to the published area, Family Tree Maker, and you go to your genealogy reports, you've got your on and TOEFL descendant person reports, list of individuals, timelines, notes. You have the option for a custom report that you can create. And it could be for everyone in your file, extended family, or whatever. You can determine what things you want to put in it, all that kind of stuff. I haven't found that for Heredis yet. I hope they have that as an option, because I may want to run a sundry links report that shows all the enslaved of a person. So if if you click this biography, that's the one that I found that I sort of kind of like a little bit. It'll have a section for children, sundry links, photo album timeline. You can I can click that. The surname style if you want that way, William of Hatfield, William, Hatfield, whatever you want. The different things, you can select all your different little options. I guess they consider this to be customization. I don't. I want to be able just to say I just want sundry links and nothing else. You can pick your fonts, your page setup, the title. You can put page numbers, select your margins, and then Pages is my word processing software. So I click edit because I want it to open up in Pages, and now it's going to open up in Pages. And you see here, this is the report for Randall. Let me shrink everything else down so you guys can see that. Okay, so this is a report that I ran. I know he was born about 1769, and it says he signs. Perhaps that means that he was literate. And I wish there was an option for us to take that out of the report. Let me see if there's a way to remove whether or not he signs, because I just don't. Yeah. Okay, so I would uncheck signature because I don't care about that. At least in this instance, because these are folks who were not literate. And so you got your notes, your facts, number, occupation, child status, mention step families, mention spouses, mention descendants, all that kind of stuff. The events, all that. So we're going to come back over since I took out signature. Export again, so you see that it's removed. He was born about blank and died, because I don't know when he passed away. Noted events, you've got all the indentures that I have, including the sources, right? It automatically sources for you. Says he married Esther, which is correct. They have 7 children. They list all the children. They mention Horace and Betsy. Horace, who's my ancestor, and this is 5 children. Horace's daughter Delphine is my ancestor. Big Matilda Tolliver, she married, became the partner of Edmund Collins, and the 3 children they had, and then all the rest of the kids. And then here's the best part. Noted links in the life of Randall were: he has an enslavement link with Isaac Robinette. He has an enslavement link with Hatton Middleton. And you see in the parentheses, it put the years, which is what I had in the comments, right? So let me go back to Pages so you can see that. And it lists them all together. Then we've got the timeline, because I decided I want that in there. And then you've got all your sources. So let's look at this from the perspective of somebody who's got DNA matches. So I'll use me, right? So if we want to look at my sheets, my biography sheets report, right, we're going to have the same sundry links, all that kind of stuff. Let's pull up what it looks like for DNA. And since I don't have, the way I'm using this system is I've got I have the genealogy going back because I care about the enslaved population. I don't care about all the additional folks. So I'm only using direct links. It's only direct, non-collateral research that I'm doing for this. So it says Nika. It's got I included my GEDmatch number. I did that for everyone else that was in the, in this group, and noted links in the life of Nika Smith. She's a DNA link with Ramona Morgan, and I put the username as the name, and the last name is DNA, so I can find it, because sometimes people's usernames are not the same as their actual names. And then in parentheses, I've got, and this is the comments. Remember, I've got the number of DNA Sen Morgan shared and the segments, and then also the relationship. And then I also have anybody else who's in the system who's connected to these trapped slaves and the amount of DNA that we all share. So this is how you would use that. And like I said, this is sort of the only system that I've seen, you guys, that gives you the ability to do this. And you know, if you bounce back and forth, here you've got Randall's tied to slavery. And this could be used for anything. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be, um, you know, it doesn't have to be enslaved people. It could be community, a church, a cemetery, any type of community or set of folks that you are documenting, and they may not have a blood tie or you're not exactly sure what it is. This is perfect for that. And I was talking to True last night, and I really, really, truly think that I kind of want to push folks using this. If you're, this is what you use to um, document communities. If you're just doing tried and true DNA, or not DNA, well, really DNA, because DNA and genealogy are the same thing. If you're doing tried and true genealogy research that is just tracing your family and that's it, use the software program that you're already using. But if you are trying to recreate an enslaved community or a community of people or community of slaveholders or whoever it is, to me, this is the best solution that we have going. The user interface to me in some ways leaves some, much to be desired. I mean, I think Family Tree Maker is just, it just looks better. But for what our purposes are and what we want to be able to document, you just simply cannot beat this, you guys. So I hope it wasn't too long-winded. I really wanted to really take you through the screen so you guys could see the capabilities. Oh, and you know what? I'm forgetting, because I know Angela is going to want to see what the book stuff looks like. So let me go back over to Heredis, so you guys can see that. Okay. Where'd you go? Oh, here's my window. Okay. So if you go over to books, they have some flashy looking stuff in this system, you guys. Like, seriously. Yeah. I mean, this mirrors what I use, or what I create in InDesign for my family. I mean, really, truly, and honestly. You've got the classic. They gave you the option to have 2 columns. Um, they've got elegant, you can switch the fonts, you can go to traditional where it's just 1 column. Let me add my photo. So there's no images in the slideshow. So I'll add my picture, choose on disk. So I'll get my picture out of here. Let's see. I think I've got, all right, here's one I can use. Okay, so there's my picture. I added my picture. So if we go up here to books, and I'm going to choose the ancestry report, sections, photo albums, genealogical tables. You can add the author, page numbers, the book title, the date to the header and the footer, notes, position, footnotes, or you can do endnotes at the end of a section. You can quote your sources, or do complete sources, number of generations. We want to put this up to 10. You can have a front cover. You can decide what you want that to look like. You have all of your stuff. I uncheck signature, notes, facts, sundry links. You definitely want that. Remember, because we're talking about slavery, children, spouses, descendants, degree of consanguinity, I probably said that wrong, whatever. Duration of marriage, on and TOEFL number, nicknames, the events that you want, choose the date style, the way that you want it to show, in terms of the place, quote, age at events, your fonts, all that kind of stuff. So let's choose this one as the option, click edit, and then it's going to bring it into my chosen software. And so first you're like, okay, it's a blank page. No, this is the title page. So if I had an image, it would show up here. So if we, let me get out of these. Okay. So if we, if I go to the whole page, if you want to put, look, they've got placeholders for dedication, acknowledgement. Look at all your stuff is in here. Your introduction, they've got all your stuff ready. Look at this. You've got your 2 columns, right? You might have to come in here and do a little bit of fixing, but this is nothing. This is nothing. And then it traces me back to these trash slaves. And if you look in here, if I had my sundry links defined for my other folks, you'd see it. But here's Delphine, right? I've got her sundry link enslavement link with James Lawrence Trask and Augustus Trask Welch, his nephew. Then I've got noted events. I've got her indentures. It brings all that stuff in, all of it. Then you get down here to who is this? Latin Parker, who's an ancestor of mine. Look at all these people with all these enslavement links. Here's Horace. And we're going to get to Randall, who here noted events in the life of Randall. It's going to have, here's Randall, enslavement links, all that stuff that I just had in there. And then you've got your sources. That's a lot. How long? Ooh, how many pages is this? Oh, okay. So then it's got a photo album if you have one. Look at this genealogical table. It's got my table going back on my family. This is my father's side. And then here are all my connections to these enslaved people. It starts in this generation right here, actually. And it goes back. And that's it. So that's a lot for one system, for it to be able to produce all of that. I think you would have to do this kind of piecemeal in Ancestry. And, you know, they've got descendant reports. It's all the same format. And they've got the patronymic dictionary. Let's see what that is, what it does. And so, of course, that's probably going to analyze who is in the database that's got certain last names. So here's a patronymic dictionary that it has. Same thing, it's got the introduction, all this kind of stuff. And they've got, you know, all the names that are mentioned in the database with all the sources. And this looks like this is a long document because some of these folks just have first names. So, yeah, I know Angela, like I said, I know she wanted to see, just because she's always interested in the publishing aspect, she wanted to see what that looked like. So, all right, I'm done. Get to playing. Like I mentioned, I'll put the link in, the actual real link, so you don't have to, or you know, I'll put the code in there. You've got 2 weeks left. You got until March 31st to be able to go in and play with this. And I really want us to play with this and see if it's something that we can use, because I think, honestly, you guys, if we get behind this before anybody else, y'all already know. All right, have a good day. Get to playing. Bye.